Hey everyone, Lucid stock prices had a difficult time in the last few months, falling from a high of nearly $5 per share down to $2.75 as of this recording. Now, I've already done a video answering where I think Lucid stock price will be by the end of 2024. In this video, what I'm going to do is answer where I think Lucid stock price will be by the end of 2025. So if you look at both videos, you'll get a nice price trajectory for Lucid stock over the next couple of years, according to my best estimates, right? Of course, I encourage all of you to make your own estimates. And the way I put my valuation estimates on the screen, you can look at from the several scenarios I'm going to highlight. You can pick which scenario you think is most likely to occur over the next 2 years. So without further ado, let's jump in. Let's see these numbers.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
All right, so we're going to need a few numbers if we're going to make the estimate for 2025. And the first number we're going to need is the current stock price, which I mentioned, $2.75 as of this recording. We're also going to need Lucid's valuation using the price to sales ratio. Lucid is currently trading at a 7.663 price to sales ratio. Additionally, we need Lucid stock revenue estimate for 2025, and this is this figure here, 3.72 billion for fiscal year 2025. Now, this number is compiled by a group of Wall Street analysts that follow Lucid stock. So they provide their forecast for where they think revenue will be in 2025. And then this one number is the consensus estimate compiled from all of the Wall Street analysts that are following Lucid stock. So it's a kind of midpoint or an average of all of the Wall Street analysts. Some could think that Lucid Group is going to deliver higher revenue. Some could think it's going to be even lower, but this is the average, the consensus estimate, which we're going to use for our valuation. All right, so now that we have some of the estimates, let's look at the valuation model here. Let me draw your attention first to this left-hand side. Now, Lucid has 2.284 million diluted shares outstanding. I got this number directly from Lucid's financial statements. And while I do think Lucid is going to dilute shareholders more over the next couple of years, I'm not going to include that in this valuation estimate. I'm going to assume that Lucid does not add any more shares, which will be a more friendly estimate. So the estimate I'm going to give is more optimistic because I'm not including shareholder dilution. The next thing I want to draw your attention to is the 2025 revenue estimate, which I have here as 3.72 billion. Remember, I got that number directly from the Wall Street consensus estimate. So that's where I got the 2025 estimate from. So now if we take that 2025 revenue estimate and we divide by the diluted shares outstanding, we'll get a sales per share or revenue per share of $1.63. That's the number I have here, $1.63. If we combine that $1.63 with the current valuation that I got from the current market valuation here, 7.663, we'll get an estimated stock price for Lucid by the end of 2025 of $12.49. Now that would be a remarkable increase from where it's at now of $2.75. And why I think that this is an unrealistic target, I think that the price to sales ratio is going to fall as Lucid increases its revenue. As its revenue scales up, the price to sales ratio, I think, is going to go down. Now, that's not a sure thing. That's my best guess. That's from what I've seen happen with my experience following stocks over several years. Smaller stocks tend to have higher price to sales ratio, especially when their growth expectations are much higher. As it goes forward, as Lucid's revenue increases, its expected growth rate over the next few years will decrease because of the law of large numbers, and the price to sales ratio will decrease, according to my estimate. So if the price to sales ratio decreases to 5, and its revenue per share stays at $1.63, then its stock price could be $8.15 by the end of 2024, which I also think is, by the end of 2025, I should say, which I also think is too high of an estimate. That would mean that the stock price is going to more than double in 2 years, which I don't think is going to happen. Furthermore, if the price to sales ratio falls to 2.5, then the estimated stock price could be $4.08 by the end of 2025, which is, I think, a more realistic expectation of where Lucid stock price could be. Remember, it's only at $2.75 right now. So if it goes to $4 per share, that would be a nearly 50% increase in 2 years, which if I was a Lucid stock investor, I would be happy with. Now I know if you've been investing in Lucid stock since the beginning, it's down big time from the high of close to $60 per share, and you're hoping that it's going to bounce back up to that level if you've been holding on to the stock since that time. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I don't think that's going to happen in the next 2 years. Now, that might happen over the next 5 or 10 years, but I don't think it's going to happen in the next 2 years. I think it's going to be slow going for Lucid Group. I think 2024 is going to be an extremely challenging year. I think 2025 will be a better year for Lucid, and that's why I think the stock price will be higher by the end of 2025, but not back to the highs it reached in 2021. But what if investors are very pessimistic about Lucid stock and the valuation falls to 1, a price to sales of 1, then the stock price could fall to $1.63, which would be lower than where it's at now, but I don't think Lucid stock investors would be devastated. I just showed you the price chart of where it used to be $60 per share. Another $1 down is not going to devastate Lucid stock investors that have seen this stock price crash from very high levels. Although I know that wouldn't be desired, it's not a welcome outcome. So now that I've shown you all these different scenarios, let me answer where I think it will be. Where's my best guess of where it will be? And I think Lucid stock price by the end of 2025 will be somewhere between $3.75 and $4.25, between $3.75 and $4.25. Now that would be an increase from where it's at today. It would be nearly roughly a 50% increase in 2 years, which I think would be an excellent return for Lucid stock investors. However, that being said, I think this stock is going to be extremely volatile over the next 2 years. I think there's going to be violent price fluctuations for Lucid stock. So I wouldn't recommend anyone getting into Lucid stock unless you're ready for these violent price fluctuations. That being said, I do think at the end of the next 2 years, Lucid stock price is more likely to be higher than lower from where it's at today. If you liked the video you just saw and you want to see more just like it, please subscribe to the channel. I can't keep this channel free without the support of viewers like you. And if you're already subscribed, thank you, and I appreciate your support.